little bit.
Yeah.
Eventually.
It was quiet before.
Yeah, I mean, it always made a little bit of noise, but yeah, it got worse.
Huh. All right.
Big ass guy in it, for hours at a time.
We're going.
We're rolling.
We're rolling.
What's up, y'all?
Like, share, subscribe, rate, thumbs up,
Help us
comment
out.
down there.
Yeah.
Comment box. We get a couple.
Yeah.
I'd like to some more interaction there because people email me. I've had people email me and it's like, comment section helps the algorithm.
Right.
Appreciate the feedback either way, but
sure.
Then other people could see it too, right?
Yeah.
Not just me, and then having to remember to repeat it later.
Right. Then everyone can kind of see what they're thinking.
And we're back?
Yep, we're back.
Yep. So, personal accountability we were talking about a little bit on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Personal accountability. And for some reason, it's came up every day in the last 3 days.
Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of the way it works, though, right?
Yeah, it's weird. It's just weird, right? Because we had that discussion, and then Thanksgiving it came up again.
Yeah.
About money.
Right.
And then last night, for whatever reason, my brother texted me out of the blue, bitching about the deer, about not seeing anything bigger than a spike or a 4-point.
Right.
And he was going on this rant about that they said that if we used antler restrictions, we'd have bigger bucks.
Better bucks.
Right. And I was trying to explain to him that it's not that simple.
Right.
For one, there can be big bucks in your area, and your hunting tactics can dictate whether or not you're seeing them.
Sure can. It does affect it.
Right. And I was hoping for a more nuanced perspective from him. I thought I was laying out a case good enough that maybe he'd have some insight.
Right.
And be like, I'd never looked at it from that point of view.
Right.
And I get his frustration, right?
It's frustrating.
But I think a lot of this goes back to personal accountability. He kept bitching about the DNR's decisions, whether it was baiting, whether it's antler restrictions or doe harvest.
Which does play a role in it. You can't say it don't. I mean, that'd be very unfair, I would say. I think it's a mixture.
Possibly.
I mean, if you're out smoking cigarettes, and I know all the old timers, I shot a buck in 1972 while I was smoking a cigarette.
And we had that conversation too.
It does. The wind's right. The wind's blowing in your face. The deer can't smell it. I've shot deer while I was smoking a cigarette. How many deer did I not see, though, because I was smoking in the woods? So, I mean, definitely your tactics affect it. Your style affects it, but you can't deny that, what the DNR do managing the herd doesn't have an impact either, or there wouldn't be a DNR and there wouldn't be, these standards and rules and laws that they put into place. So I think it's a mixture.
Possibly. Yeah. But you don't put your trust in government to fix anything else, but you're going to put their trust in them to fix this.
I don't trust them to fix it. I think they've made it worse,
But I'm not saying you.
Right.
If you're going to bitch to me about only seeing spikes and 4-points, but then bitching because you can't shoot a spike or a 4-point.
Right.
Right? And if that's all you're seeing, my point was you might have to find a different place to hunt. You can't just say, I'm going to sit here and smoke cigarettes and fart and eat donuts in the morning and expect a 10-point buck to walk in front of me.
Right. It could be the location. It could be all of it.
You might have to, again, take personal responsibility, have some nuance, and go, what can I do different to increase my odds? You
can always make it better, right? Work harder at it, go deeper in the woods. Everyone's like, I'm a mile back in the woods. And, a real true mile walk through the woods is way further than what people think it is. Everyone says they're a mile back in there, and they're probably a quarter mile back. 100 yards off the road. People are kind of lazy. I do it sometimes too. So you might have to put the hard work in to scout a new spot, right? Because mature bucks kick the young ones out. So if you're seeing a lot of spikes, chances are you're kind of probably not in the best of areas.
Or they're just not as sensitive to your failures.
Right.
So that's why you see them and not the bigger ones too,
yeah.
right?
Like
what you were saying about going a mile back. And I even sent him some videos from I think I want to get it right because it's really good podcast. So I want to make sure I get the name. I always, for whatever reason, my dyslexia gets the best of me sometimes. But let me go into my Spotify here. I know I got it in here. That's God. Only in real time, right?
Right.
So we don't edit shit. Before the Echo. It's a really good podcast.
Yeah.
And Dan and Font on there. I hope I pronounce his name right. He kills really nice bucks. I'm saying over 160 inches.
Yeah.
Within 100 yards of the parking lot where all the guys, he hunts public land.
Right.
And he prides himself on it. And he's killing these bucks within 100 yards of where all these guys' trucks are parked. Because he's hunting the right spots. He hunts bedding areas.
Yeah.
He doesn't hunt feature. He hunts bedding areas. And he sets up catching those bucks coming back in the morning, right? Because if you go in there in the evening...
The spot that I currently hunt right now is a great spot. Even you were like, man, you get these daytime photos of, really? And I'm 90 yards from the road.
So my point to that was, you don't always sometimes you do have to. You might have to go 5 miles.
Maybe.
To find...
You might have to go to a different county.
Right.
You know?
And that was my point to him was, and I wasn't trying to be a dick. I was legitimately trying to have a conversation just to help him see a different perspective.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to... I wasn't arguing. I was just bringing up facts and situations like, hey, this and that, you know. And,
have you tried this? Did you think of that?
Right. You know,
because you can always, you know,
and he said,
help your odds.
He said, well, our other brother is hunting this county with prime deer, and he hasn't seen a... For one, that county isn't prime. There are probably certain spots in that county that are really good.
Yeah.
But as a whole county, it's not Pike County, Illinois. Okay?
And that's the problem. Like, you know, for one, that's one of the disservices that the DNR did to hunters here in the state was convince them we're going to be Illinois. We're not ever going to be Illinois. We can definitely make our herd better, the bucks, you know, more mature, but you don't have the habitat here that they do there. You know,
true. Right. There's a lot more agriculture in those areas, but portions of the state definitely could reach that potential.
Parts of it, there's counties.
The southern third,
there's counties in there.
Largely agricultural, right? The whole thumb area is largely agricultural. So,
but there's a lot of deer in the winter here that eat fucking tree bark and pine needles. You know,
I still think those are reserved to the most very northern portion of the state.
Even through the mid part of the state, like, I mean, there's some crops around, but I don't think that they don't eat as well as, you know, I mean, there's just parts of the country that grow bigger bucks. They have the genetics, they have the habitat, the environment. You know?
But what happens when they harvest those fields and they disc them all under? All that food's gone now. Whether it's here or in Illinois.
A lot of farmers don't even disc them under in the fall. They leave it up, all the, you know.
I don't know how much of that's just from wet falls too, where they didn't have the ability to. But anyways, my point was, like, if it's...
Well, I think they do it on purpose, not just wet falls. I've seen that a lot of hunters were doing that for habitat for pheasants and deer and you know, things like that to help them out.
My point here was, like, if that's your goal, if that's what you want to obtain, you're gonna have to put some work in.
You're gonna have to work hard, especially in this state. It's not easy.
So I sent him some videos from Midwest Whitetails.
Right.
They just produce such beautiful videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
They're just the camera quality, the editing, and they're in Iowa.
Yeah.
Granted, I mean,
it's Iowa, right?
Right. Which is fine. But then he's like, I call bullshit, he says. They're hunting high fence. Those deer are coming in right at 2:30. No, that's bullshit. And my point was, he didn't even look at the videos and give it a chance. These guys work regular jobs.
Yeah.
They own farmland, but they lease those fields out to farmers to offset the cost.
Sure.
I mean, they grind. They put a lot, they're working regular jobs.
Yeah.
I seen one guy FaceTiming his wife. I believe if I watch a lot of hunting videos, so if I got this one wrong. Like his son shot a deer and he was FaceTiming him from his job.
Yeah.
Because he was working.
Right.
Like, so to say that, I think that whole thing is gone. I think that whole high fence just to put out DVD things, the old days, I think majority of that shit's
it's
gone.
changing. Yeah.
I think this whole fair chase thing, I think that we've come to a point now where we understand enough about nutrition and biology that they can grow these deer without having to just shoot them in high fences.
The funny thing is I don't think you can get two people ever to agree on deer management. You know what I mean? It's just so... I've heard compelling arguments why you should shoot off all the spikes.
Yeah.
I've heard arguments why you never shoot a spike.
And I was trying to... I've
heard arguments to shoot does. I've heard arguments not to. My own personal experience is I quit harvesting as many does. And my area got significantly better. I started getting better quality bucks there.
Mm-hmm.
People down the road shoot off all the does. You know what I mean? I'd rather shoot a doe than a spike.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather not shoot either one of them and just wait. So I mean, everybody's a little bit different with that. It's funny listening to people debate it back and forth because you get compelling arguments all the way around. They kind of make you stop and think. There is some validity to that, or there is some truth in this, or I can see the logic in that. I don't know. I know the one thing I kind of felt in this state when I was young, to shoot a quality buck, it was magical.
Yeah.
And over time, I do believe there are more mature bucks now. I see more pictures of them on social media. Maybe that's because of social media. Now it's easier to just... But I see a lot of, 10-year-old kids harvesting really nice bucks. And, sometimes I kind of wonder if it took the magic out of it, because, when we were young, for someone, hey, I shot a 10-point, you're like, really? Wow. Now it's like, oh, nice. How big was it? Like, it just seems like it took some of the magic away.
It's not just necessarily a bad thing that the bar has gotten raised,
right?
To better quality.
No, I think it's good to have better quality deer. It just that's the side effect of it that I thought was kind of the sad part of it,
And that was my point to him, was that, like, it's the first year I've ever tagged out in my life.
Yeah.
And I had 4 different 8-points in my food plot this year.
Yeah.
Which is better than any previous year. Something's happening.
I think there's better bucks, and I think...
I told him, I don't think you're even going to see the change in our lifetime. It takes so long.
Yeah. For sure.
But you got to start at some point.
Right. I shot a 10-point last year. I missed an 11-point this year.
Right.
That was...
Like, the next generation will appreciate our sacrifices of antler restrictions or extra doe harvests. Because that's the thing in all these other states, like, I'd heard, and so don't take this as gospel or law, but I had heard in Wisconsin you have to harvest a doe before you can even get your buck tag.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
you have
crazy.
To check it in before you can even get a buck tag.
And I mean, hey, less does, and then when you see one, they're more amped to have a buck behind it.
Right.
I get it with the genetics. Like, the bigger, better bucks are the ones competing for the does, and you're not getting little scrub bucks breeding them, right? So, it makes sense. There was something kind of nice, though, at the beginning of my hunting career when you could sit in the woods and see 35 deer in a day, and it seemed like every 2 hours, a round of deer would come through, and I like baiting. Personally, I think it's bullshit we can't. I'll argue that till hell freezes over. It was good for all the animals. It was rabbits, porcupines, squirrels, birds. You're feeding them all. Just let us feed the animals, but at least through bow season.
And I'm not even arguing that. I agree. People should be able to feed animals.
But I see why they say knock the doe herds down. Some of it I always felt was insurance. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like crop damage and car accidents, and they start bitching at the state to take care of this. There's too many deer, and they decrease the herd. Sometimes my fear rabbit hole, guys, was you control food, you control people. And everyone in this state's like, whatever, screw that breadline, I'll just go shoot deer. Well, not if you're going to sit out there for 3 days and not see one,
But in these other states that shoot world-class whitetails have lower car deer accidents, and their buck-to-doe ratio is more in check than 1 to 1.
I'd like to know the statistics all the way around, though, like population densities, like, do they have less collisions because there's just less traffic on the road, less people? Like, our state's really mixed with, like I just seen a deer last night hit just outside the city limit. Go on the side of the road, dead. And I thought, wow, that's just a weird place to. But it was a transition area from city to kind of some fields to rural area. It was kind of right on that line, and I thought, this state's funny like that. There's a lot of this here, where you do get the deer kind of. Look at the big city that was down south, right? That they had to bring people in because the deer were like tearing people's lawns up, and all these, people that had chem lawn out there all the time, and like really beautiful green grass, and they were getting pissed off there was too many deer. So the DNR went in there and hired, snipers to go in and shoot them all. And they were right in the city,
Right.
Crazy.
No, I can understand.
And I say that because my brother-in-law drives for a pop company. I'll leave it at that. And he does a lot of traveling. And he said he's never seen so many deer hit and dead on the side of the road down south as he is now. And they're like in semi-rural and city-ish areas, like he's just never seen that before, and there's a lot of them this year down there. Like,
so I would get like if it was Wyoming, right? Because it is so vast, and you have such distances between population and people. But you're just telling me like Iowa, Illinois, Kansas, Nebraska, because they are in the Corn Belt, that's why they have such quality deer, which seems like there would be even more of them if they have that much available food and habitat. It seems like they would flourish and there would be even more of them, so that chances would increase. I think they get hunted
pretty hard too, though,
I don't think so, because Iowa, you just can't go buy a license and hunt in Iowa.
No, you apply for them and stuff, right?
Unless you're a landowner.
But every hunter in the United States tries at one point
they're not successful though,
to get in there.
Because only landowners have a right to buy licenses, and that's why it's so sought after.
And if it is that vast, and there is that, maybe I don't know, maybe they just don't have the road traffic we do here in this state. I mean, I think everything.
Or they're again because their population is so much more. Because how many big bucks or even bucks do you see hit here? It's usually does and fawns hit on our roads.
Yep, a lot of times.
Every now and then you will see a buck, but so it looks like about 19,000 deer are killed in Wisconsin by car accidents annually over the past 5 years. And I just want to see, because Iowa and Wisconsin are closer in population than we are with, did you see it? I don't see it.
I don't see it.
I don't know how to word it. How many?
Yeah, or number of. Try that.
It's weird it popped up.
Man, they're goofy.
It's weird how it popped up for Wisconsin right away, but then it must just be reporting or something.
Fourth in the nation for deer collision claims.
How many though? I wanted to see it.
Well, click it. It says how many.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah.
Oh, no, search how many.
And then the first question down. Oh no, that's chances. So.
I wanted a number just so we compare get a closer idea of ads. Yeah, how many?
Yeah, it doesn't. Just gives you your
Yeah,
odds of hitting
yeah.
one.
What's that?
They're, dropped to 29,843.
Yeah.
Holy moly!
I don't know what it doesn't say what.
In
Oh,
the 12 month,
2012 and
yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's a lot of. Yeah,
So they killed more deer in Iowa by car than Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
But population-wise, they're closer. Although Wisconsin does have.
Yeah. How many was hit in Michigan?
That's what. Yeah, I know. Michigan's high. I think Michigan, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean this
50,000.
You know, yeah. You can't
and that
drive.
Was this year. That's
yeah, you can't drive a lifetime
so
in the state without
18,000
hitting
more
one.
than
Yeah.
Iowa. But we have 3 times the population. So
that wouldn't be that bad,
but
considering, you know.
But then I wonder. I fucked that all up.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Wow, 2.1 million.
Well, with animals.
Yeah.
But how many were? I want to know how many were deer. Did I put deer in there? Yeah. How many deer are hit in Pennsylvania?
Wow.
Your odds are 1 in 52.
Yeah,
There's
I
1
that.
in 70
yeah.
in Pennsylvania.
Or Iowa. This is Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't know. You know, where there's deer, there's going to be collisions. They like to cross the road.
1.5 million deer vehicle collisions.
Wow.
Oh, is that? Yeah, not 2018 it says.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy amount.
Yeah.
So,
is it...
Yeah.
Now I gotta search what's the Iowa deer, what size the Iowa whitetail herd.
Yeah.
To know.
That's a rabbit hole right there, man.
Right.
Because, you know, I mean, everything, I would think everything plays an effect. Like, you know, they got a lot of roads through cornfields. We got a lot of roads, excuse me, through woodland areas. You know, are you more amped to hit one that's coming out of the woods across the road? Or, you know, do you see them? Do you avoid them a little easier when it's just fields? Because, you know, fields are only, well, corn is the only one that's really tall that you can't see something that could just step out. But it's only a few months that it's really tall. A lot of times fields are knocked down, right? So maybe that plays a role in it too.
So it says Iowa's estimated herd is about 400,000.
Yeah. So I would think all of it has an impact. You know.
Look at Michigan.
2 million.
Iowa's is 400,000.
Yep. That's why you see those guys on TV and they walk out in the woods and they go meh meh, you know, and some nice ass buck comes running in there thinking, you know, there's just not that many does. Not like there is here.
But the quality of their herd is better. And obviously agriculture plays a part in that. But about a third of our state, though, matches them in agriculture. So I think it's...
And you get bigger, better deer there.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, some of the best deer we get come out of those areas. So
we were just...
You know...
we were just talking about how much meat we got off our deer this year. So imagine if those deer had another 2 years.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. When I was young, you seen a lot more mature does. You know, you had to apply for a permit. Not everyone got one.
No.
I mean, there was out of 10 of us, there might be 1 or 2 of us that would actually get drawn for the permit. Most of us didn't. So a lot of the does were huge, big deer, you know.
I remember, like at deer camp, the guy that had the doe permit, it was like the golden ticket for Blanca, you know. Everybody was like, "Oh, pass that around."
Right,
you know?
let me touch it. You know,
yeah, like
right?
a doe permit.
And now a lot of the does, they're young, you know,
yeah.
they're
well,
last year's
even the bucks, right?
Well, I dropped my deer off, and excuse me, when I went to pick it up from the processor, there were 2 deer that someone had just dropped off outside, and one was a nice buck, probably 2.5-year old. I would guess just past the tips of his ears a little bit. Really, really nice looking deer. And right next to it is a doe, and I mean it's a fawn.
Yeah.
Just absolute. It was half the size of that buck, and man, you know, but meat's meat. You know, last night I passed a spike and I was tempted. You know, I had him in the crosshairs a few different times, and I thought about it, and you know, the licenses is so expensive now, and processing if you're not doing it yourself, and man, by the time you get done, like you're paying a fortune for that meat.
Right.
And I'm like, do I really not want to tag out this year because I'm passing on young bucks? So, you know, I mean, I get the dilemma. I'm only going to pass this spike so many times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he comes through this area a lot. And who knows? Maybe we get a little later in the season through muzzleloading and I'm not seeing anything better. Maybe I'll cartwheel him. You know, it's meat, right?
Well, my thing is we use the same processor.
Right.
The price is the same whether it's a 60-pound fawn or 200-pound buck. The processing fee doesn't change.
No.
And I'm looking at filling my freezer.
Right.
I think I've heard, like in Illinois, when they started getting better bucks, it was because the hunters in that state decided.
Mm-hmm.
They set the standard.
Right. It's up to the hunters, no doubt.
And that went back to my point that if you're waiting on the government to fix this problem, you're going to die waiting.
Yeah.
This has to start.
When has government ever fixed anything?
Right. And that was, and that I even
they
asked,
make it worse.
I even asked him last night because I'm like, you're this and that about the government, and I paused. I went, you sure you're not liberal?
Right. No doubt.
Like it starts with us.
But I think you can't deny that they have an impact for sure. You know.
But it hasn't been. I haven't seen an impact that would negatively affect the age of the herd overall. The only one thing I would say they should do is stop the shooting of button bucks. Figure out a way to at least limit or reduce.
You know.
A friend of mine used to hunt 4,000 private acres.
Yeah.
It wasn't high fenced. It was just 4,000 acres. The guy had some cabins there. They had a main clubhouse, and it cost you, I think it was like a couple $100 a day,
right,
to hunt there, and you got the cabin included in that, and then you had to pay $500 if you shot a buck, $250 if you shot a doe.
Wow.
Okay. That included button bucks.
Yeah.
And he said one time a guy's son shot a button buck.
Yeah.
And the owner's like, pay up, because that was one of his bucks for the next year.
Right.
Right?
No, I've heard arguments to say shoot the buttons. If they're not really broke through in spikes at that point, the genetics are not as good, shoot the buttons. Leave the doe, leave the spike, shoot the button.
Very few.
I know that.
How many button bucks in this state have you ever saw breakthrough? I've seen one on this property.
I've seen quite a few.
25 years I've seen one.
On my property, I've seen quite a few.
You were blessed then.
Yeah,
25 years I've seen one here.
Yep. I've seen quite a few breakthrough.
And that's why I think so many of them get shot, because they're not. And
right.
I think
they come in, you think it's a bigger doe, right?
And that was the argument.
When, the thing I always use to kind of pause, When it comes in by itself, usually when there's a mature doe, there's usually more does, especially later in the season they herd up or they have fawns. So you pause, you wait a minute, there's nothing else with it, and it's like, I better look a little closer at this because that probably is a button buck, which I don't shoot button bucks, never. I've never shot a button buck in my entire hunting career, but I have heard the argument for it and, read some arguments for it, and that's what I mean. But, you can't get two people to hardly agree on anything.
Well, I think the reason you can't is because people inject their own opinion or bad information, old, outdated information. Right. I listened to this podcast. I was trying to find it yesterday, and I could not find it to send it to them. It's the largest deer study ever performed in the United States.
Yeah.
And they studied it from Texas to Michigan.
Right.
And they did high fence studies where they had a control group of deer, and they did like specific select harvest.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, they did just general harvest. Like if you were just going out hunting, you can shoot what you want, and then they took private land. I want to say it was like 1,000 acres in the UP of Michigan or Wisconsin, around that area, Minnesota, and they took that was a 10-year study, if I remember right. And they said, okay, we're going to shoot every scrub buck that just a hunter would believe wouldn't reach potential, right? After 10 years, they did not change the BNC score on that property after 10 years of harvesting scrub bucks.
Right.
And they said it's because of does. And even with 1,000 acres, you can't control what's coming in and breeding and leaving. So the studies in Texas were done on two 15,000 acre plots. So they had a controlled group that they fed like specific nutrients to.
Yeah.
And then they had the other side that pretty much is grazed on the natural habitat. And so they did a study over 6 years with bucks.
Yeah.
They had spikes getting to 150 inches at 5.5 years.
Right.
So they're saying that's like complete BS, that, once a spike, always a spike, or spike will never amount to anything.
I don't think, no, because I've walked spikes and you learn your herd over the years. I had, 13 trail cameras out all year long. I watched the deer all the time, and I had spikes that were, forks the next year. A couple of them, I think, were basket sixes. Were they as big as some of the other deer at the same age? Maybe not. I don't know. I think every study you can kind of poke holes in them, or it's hard. It's hard to say, because I've seen studies that, the ocean's going to rise in 5 years and we're going to lose most of our coastline. You know what I mean? So there's always studies that say.
I mean, you can't conflate one thing with
I think
hypothetical
we
other.
Believe what we want to believe, and we find the studies that support our beliefs, or we just
I don't have any opinion going into it. I just listened to a podcast, and they said, "Look, we've done this study."
But I'm saying maybe you're magical compared to most people. I'm saying the average person, though, like your brother, would believe this kind of stuff, and they hear a study like. I just I don't know.
So what do we believe? That if this study was conducted by a university over 15 years, and they did it on not just one controlled plot of land and said pixie dust because we were able to sprinkle the perfect food and selectively bring in the exact doe and buck, and this is what we ended up with. They hopped.
I think you're right. Less regulation from government, more.
I think we have to take accountability on our part as hunters to decide.
I don't like shooting young deer.
And unfortunately, that's what's happened in the state, is we have decided that this is a standard we're going to hold.
Right. But,
and we've accepted that. My point to him was, he says, I keep seeing the same spike in 4-point, right? And I told you the same thing. Yeah. I haven't shot a buck in 5 years.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they keep telling me, let them walk.
Yep. Let them go, let them grow. Yep. Let them go, let them grow.
So I have to be okay with the fact that that's a potential in my area.
Right.
Right?
It might just be what
the
majority of the bucks are going to
now, in his area, his first buck has to have 3 points, and his second one has to have 4.
Right.
And he says, I'm seeing the same spike in 4-point. I said, well, somebody's shooting them then.
Yeah.
Because we know they increase by 2 points a year. Right. So if you're seeing still just, if this has been going on for how many ever years, and you're still just seeing spike in 4 points, either the bigger bucks are avoiding your area and someone else is killing them, and those are the only ones that are comfortable enough or don't have enough knowledge, right?
Yeah, they just don't have the street smarts yet.
Right, so they're they're ignorant to what's happening and they'll still walk into your setup, or somebody around you is still shooting these smaller bucks. One of the two.
Yeah,
it's not a 5-year-old spike.
No,
I mean, it's not the same one from 3 years ago when they started the program. Right. I mean, you'd tell body size if that was the case. So it would still be substantially larger.
They're shooting younger bucks, or I don't know. But I think at some point the hunters in this state are going to have to make a decision whether they're more. It's more about freezer, or it's more about wall space. You know what I mean?
But they go hand in hand was my point, because we just talked about the processing bill being the same.
Right.
I'd rather shoot one deer and pay for it to be processed and get the same amount of meat versus having to buy 2 licenses and have 2 smaller deer processed and pay twice the processing fee.
But like your brother being in an area where he probably is not, he's not going to tag out there, obviously. He might get lucky. It happens, but the probability is he's going to have to find somewhere different to go. Where if it was just freezer based, the way it used to be, every deer. See, because we get so much shaming now on social media, and I bring that up because a good friend of mine who's well known in the community. I'll leave it at that. Very well known in the community, has a ton of people on his social media. Shot a younger basket buck and was almost apologetic about it, but opening days got someone set up 100 yards away from him, and the deer coming through the thicket, everyone's shooting off. He's on public land, and seeing a buck, said, "Man, there it is," and he shot it, and then he's like, "Well, I shoot big bucks." And my comment there was, every deer that you harvest that goes in the freezer is a trophy. I mean, it's still meat, right?
Absolutely.
Bone soup sucks.
Absolutely.
So I think, and this is the transition we're in right now, where you got hunters that are, they eat the meat and they want the meat, but it's the bragging rights, the competitiveness of it, let's put a bunch of pictures all over social media of me with my big deer. I want a big buck like anyone else,
sure.
but I also kind of believe in filling the freezer.
I didn't post one picture of either deer I shot.
I did. I shot a young buck. I posted it right after he posted his, and I said, you know what? Here's mine. I shot a younger buck this year. Last year, how many deer? Me and you had this conversation that both of us passed on over and over and over. I just passed a spike last night, but. Again, the way I didn't have as much time to invest in hunting this year, and you spend a lot of money to be out there, and I thought, it's a buck. I'm gonna put a deer in the freezer.
And I don't care what anybody shoots. You just have to be okay with it. And I'm okay with what I shot this year. I know I shot both spectrums pretty much of the potential of my property, and I'm ecstatic.
Yeah.
I got meat in the freezer,
season, man.
I could not be happy.
Yep.
And my point to my brother was, like, okay, if those are limitations in your area, we're not held by those restrictions down here. He can come down here and shoot a spike or a 4-point or a doe.
So come down here and shoot.
Right. Like, and I get there's a little bit of travel, but he travels further than that for work and shit. Like,
for me, I pass them. I have my own kind of method. I pass them for a while. Yeah. I don't shoot does with little ones.
Yeah.
Some people do. They don't give a shit. Yeah. For one, I had a farm. And animals do kind of know what death is. I learned, butchering chickens in front of other chickens. I ain't never doing that again. And you know what? Hey, fuck it. I watched Bambi a lot when I was a kid. And, Bambi's mom getting shot and the oversized eyes. And you know what I mean? Like, Walt Disney was great about pushing that narrative of, maybe starting the whole idea of, anti-hunting PETA. But I just don't like shooting does. And then by the time I'm ready to shoot a doe, they're bred. And now I got people all around me that's just shooting the shit out of them. They don't care. To me, I'm like, well, I'm going to kill that deer plus probably a set of twins that she's carrying now. There's 3 deer gone,
Whether you shot it when she's pregnant or you shot her in early October, you're still killing.
And like I said, deer, I don't shoot many does.
And again, that's dependent on the herd size in your area too, right?
Me, I'd rather shoot the spike than the doe. Because, you know what, he's only going to breed so many does anyways. There's competition. But the doe, she's going to go in estrus. She's getting bred. So definitely you're going to kill her, plus probably a set of twins, which one is going to be a button buck next year.
Yeah.
I don't know. See,
My
hard.
problem is again the meat though.
Yeah.
It's like the meat off the doe. I might get another 10 pounds of meat off her versus a spike.
You could,
for
sure.
So
for sure. So it's hard. I guess I kind of wait it out, and then when I start to feel the pressure, something comes in and it gives me the right shot, and then I kind of know it and I take it. So I've shot young bucks, I've shot more mature bucks, I've shot a few does throughout my career, not a lot, but a few.
I've shot quite a few because again, I'd rather shoot a doe than a young buck. I'd rather give him a chance to, I feel like I can't sit here and preach deer management and keep shooting small bucks, right? And the only reason the first buck I shot was because the two does that were with him were smaller than him.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't make sense to me why.
Yeah, that's
because I was sitting there videoing him and taking pictures. I'm like, man, he's a lot bigger than the does were. Had the doe been bigger, I would have shot a doe.
Right. But then that buck last night, I was looking at him going, yeah, he's kind of small. A little pencil spike. It's not like he had real tall, just, and I was looking at his body going, he's quite a bit smaller than the last buck I just, and I had just picked that buck up from
so you don't want
the processor, so I'm like, but he's only going to get a free pass through my area so long, and if I'm not seeing something better, spike tastes pretty good, and I would rather, as far as eating deer, I'd rather eat a spike than a 10-point any day.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's just tender, tastes better.
But it's just the amount of meat.
The amount of meat.
I'd rather get the 10-point ground all into burger
and
have all that burger mixed in with taco seasoning and chili stuff where you're not going to taste
kind of mass the gamey,
the super gaminess of it. But this wasn't supposed to be about deer hunting, and I apologize to people out there that don't want to listen here. This was more about the point to the story was personal responsibility.
Right.
I was really hoping he'd watch some of those videos and understand the reason those guys shoot quality deer is because if the wind's not right, they don't go to that stand. They'll be in the stand and the wind will switch and they get the hell out of there. Right? Because they don't want to blow the area up.
When a lot of them, they don't hunt mornings. You'll see a lot of them, they're all afternoon. They're not going in the morning pushing the deer out.
Right. If they're hunting a
feeding source. Kind of adopt that.
Right. But if they're hunting a bedding area, they will because they know the buck's going to be coming back from the feed to go bed. So in the morning, they'll hunt on the edge of the bed, catch it and come back. Then afternoon, they'll set up closer to the feed, catch it and come off his bed in there and shit. So because I had said, I texted him and I'm not bashing my brother. I love the guy. I was really just trying to help him see this in just a little different way. Maybe he could make some adjustments. I see the struggle here is I see a lot of the same shit in myself. I used to blame my neighbors, right? For the reason I didn't shoot deer. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Once I started taking personal responsibility for my decisions and accepting where I hunt, I wasn't so upset.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then I started taking more personal responsibility in other areas of my life and stopped blaming other people for my failures and accepting that my decisions are why I am where I am, right?
Yeah.
And you got to start somewhere with that.
There are circumstances, too, that play a role in it.
Okay, but not in the majority.
You can't say it's 100% just decision-based because sometimes circumstances kind of push you into some decisions that ain't always the best, but I get it. Like there were times I was laid off through hunting season. I couldn't travel. There's times where I had to work and I couldn't get up north to the place I really wanted to hunt. It just wasn't practical, so I hunted somewhere closer by, and maybe I didn't have quite the as good of an area. I don't know. I think your brother should find a different spot. Maybe you should, like you said, come this way where if he sees all he's seeing is a spike, he can take it then. You know what I mean? Versus donating money to the state and not getting anything. That sucks. Right. And I've done it.
But in the same perspective, though, like I said, hey, watch these videos. Tell me how many of these guys are smoking cigarettes in their tree stand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you may have to make adjustments and just stop blaming it on other
Which I quit smoking in the woods.
And I'm just using that as one example. I'm talking, making sure the wind's right, making sure the stand. Because where you said my other brother, How much? It's first year my other brother's on this other land. Does he even know where the bedding areas is? Does he know where the feeding is?
Have
Does
you
he even
scouted it real hard?
Right.
I mean,
or did he just go up there and the guy was like, well, that should be a good spot, and just walk in the woods and go, well, this is a good spot. The deer should walk through here. Well, that doesn't mean the deer are going to walk through. No, you got to do the work. No doubt. You're going to have to put cameras up. You're going to have to put time into it if you want to be successful. Right. Yeah. A blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. Sure. You just happen to sit down in front of a tree and you got lucky and there was a runway.
I had a friend that shot a beautiful buck, did that. Carrying a bucket of apples through the woods. This was years ago when you could bait. And he said, this spot looks pretty good. And he set his bucket down. He walked over. He sat down up against a tree. And he's like, this is a pretty good spot. He went to sleep. He woke up. It was an 8-point eating the apples out of his bucket and he shot it. I mean, what the hell's the chances, right?
Every now and then.
It happens.
But consistently.
But it's not. That'll never happen to him again. Right. No way.
And this goes.
Your brother should move.
Yeah.
If all he's seeing is a spike and he can't shoot a spike, find a different spot for sure.
Right. And again, putting the work in. You might have to go knock on some farmers' doors.
Right.
I remember years ago I was watching a Dan Fitzgerald video, and he would knock on farmers' doors.
I've done it.
And he said it's amazing. These farmers never have any quality deer on their property, and all of a sudden you pull out your wallet, and that 100 comes out. And, oh, by the way, there's a 12-point here, and I've seen this,
Yeah, I've done it for goose hunting,
And maybe you don't have the money to pay them, but maybe you work for them and do some chores around there and build a rapport with them and a relationship with them, and then you get to hunt their property. And then it takes time, though. Everybody wants it quick and now, or they want the government to fix it right now for them.
I definitely don't want the government involved in it. Not me, man. The more they get involved, the worse the shit gets. Like they couldn't manage something to save their lives.
Did you watch that video I sent you? And I said this is like to the point of what I was trying to get through on. What'd you think of his video?
Not bad. I mean, it was some good points.
And that was kind of what I was trying to convey Wednesday on the podcast. Like, I see so many people just playing the victim card, like, because of this, or because my company did this, and it's like, okay, so now what? Like, the problem. How do you fix it? That's the That's why I think so many people just wanna. Well, it's easier just to blame someone, and then that's my.
But I still push back on some of that there is a difference between a reason and an excuse. And sometimes there are reasons why things happen, and to acknowledge it is not being a victim. It's just trying to understand what happened so that you don't do those decisions later on, or like you said, you can manage your way through it. Like, okay, this is a problem. What's my solution now? So I think you got to be a little bit careful, because I think a lot of people use excuses for sure. To me, my definition of it would be an excuse is something you use when you don't have a reason, right? You're trying to justify something when there isn't a reason. But I think sometimes there's legitimate reasons why shit goes down the way it does. And, you just got to acknowledge it and then fix it the best you can.
Right, but I think too many people use the excuse as, well, this wasn't my fault, so now I don't have to try to fix it or try to do something different because there's resistance in that, and it's going to take work on my part.
So it's hard work, pushing back.
But I'll just use the excuse that my boss is a dick and that's why I can't get promoted. Well, maybe you need to find another job that your boss isn't a dick.
Right, but it doesn't change the fact that the boss is a dick and they're not getting promoted.
Right,
which is
it doesn't. But sitting there just saying, well, I'm gonna.
So then you have choices to make.
Right, but then it's difficult to go.
But you can't say that that's just someone being a victim saying it's an excuse, because that's disingenuous.
But I also see people I work with that say our bosses are dicks.
Right.
But then I see they're the ones always showing up late. They're the ones calling in.
Sure.
They're the ones doing half-ass work. Just enough.
So then you wonder why the boss is being a dick, right? So is the boss a dick, or is the boss a dick to that person?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
So there, again, personal accountability. It's looking inward and saying, okay, what can I do different, too, right?
Right. I think you got to just kind of analyze it.
If you are a model employee, you show up, you work hard, you stay late, you're dotting all the I's, crossing the T's. You're not calling in.
And you got a bad manager,
and you still can't get ahead, and it seems like this guy just has it out for you. Then it's probably time to look for another job.
There's definitely bad managers.
Right.
I think probably more bad managers than good ones even.
But I see a lot of people that are shitty employees blaming management for their holdback too, right?
Yeah.
For holding them back. Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of shitty employees.
And that's where I'm talking about personal accountability. Right. Like, fix you first. And then if that situation doesn't improve, well, at least you're a better person now and you can move on.
Maybe you can.
And now when you go to the next job, you're going to have more opportunities because you fixed all your bullshit.
I've kind of fallen in that trap a couple of times where I really liked my job and what I was doing, but I really hated who I was working for. And again, if it's a personality conflict between me and that manager, maybe, but just blackballed for sure. But hang on to it. Yeah. Probably shouldn't have. I probably should have just moved to a different company, but because I really liked what I was doing, like I held on to it too long, made me miserable, bitter, Now I'm at a point in my life now where if it just doesn't fit, like I'm packing my shit and I'm moving. I'll go to a different company. I'll find something different to do. I'm not, but it was through experience, kind of learning that,
And again, I can talk about this from personal experience.
Right.
Because once I switched jobs and started holding myself accountable, I started realizing that it wasn't all my old managers.
Right.
A lot of it was me.
Well, sure.
And I use that as a blame.
You get a bad manager, then you get a bad attitude, right? Now you got a bad attitude. Does that make the manager worse? I mean, or a different manager that you get now you're not even giving them a fair chance because you have a bad attitude?
Or not understanding.
Do you think you started it at that company?
Maybe.
Yeah?
Maybe.
That surprises me.
Because not understanding the struggles from the manager's perspective and making it all about my own struggles, right? And maybe they were really holding me accountable and I didn't want to change.
Yeah.
And
change is hard.
Right.
I've been a manager a lot and I've changed places and man, people don't like to change.
The more I accept my own failures, the easier life gets for me.
Right.
The more I recognize it and I change it, the easier life gets.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good message.
And we were talking yesterday about struggle, right?
Yeah.
And, some people will be like, man, I can just never get ahead, like I can never settle into a job or I can't settle into a relationship, Every guy I meet, ends up being an asshole, or every woman I meet, just wants money. And we had a good conversation yesterday about how many people unconsciously enjoy the struggle to the point they self-sabotage.
Oh, I think there's definitely some of that. Yeah. So they got names for them, like what, drama queens or drama kings, like, people that just love the struggle.
But I wonder if they don't even know, like.
Well, I think some of them people probably don't know.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't even realize, like they do this crappy job and, okay, I've heard before that people get addicted to the new relationship thing, right? Like whether it's a woman or a guy, like they get dinner, they get dinner paid, they get to meet new friends and family, and they go out. And then 18, 24 months, 30 months into this, all of a sudden dinner's not getting paid for anymore. Nobody's brushing their teeth first thing in the morning. Like,
the bed's not getting made. Dirty socks on the floor. Dishes weren't done. Right.
Right, and so then
the real grind.
So then they self-sabotage the relationship, right? So it fails. So they have an excuse to get out of it, right? So that they can get that.
And everybody likes the new car smell, right?
So they can get that new. That new warm, fuzzy feeling in their belly, and now it's dinner being paid for.
And I think some of it just they once they quit, the honeymoon phase is over, right?
Yeah.
I think some of them feel like, well, this can't really be love because I lost, I don't have this, and if I really love that person, I think they don't really understand what love really is. Love is the commitment of being there when it's hard.
Yeah.
That's what love is. When it's easy, any dickhead in the world can do that. Right? But when it's hard, when the hard work starts and you got to support that person that you're with, and you work together to, to achieve goals together, that teamwork, that bond, that's because you really love somebody. So I think some of it's just they don't really know what love is. Some of it, I think, is like you said in the podcast ago or whatever. Like everyone wants a new car, right? Every couple of years you just want that new car, and I think I just swear people have been conditioned over the years. They've gotten worse with that.
Well, what started the conversation was a famous person saying they miss the struggle from the early days. I think there was a musician. I don't remember. I don't remember if it was hip hop or what it was, but they were saying they miss the old days and I've heard famous people say this. Even Joe Rogan talking with other famous comedians, and they're like, "Oh, remember the old days? Like where they'd take a gig just to get dinner paid.
Yeah,
because the
venue pickle jar for tips, right?
The venue would give them dinner if they played there,
right?
And you'll hear bands talk about, the van, right? The shitty van going from venue to venue.
Like I said, the pickle jar that they all set out to put tips in while they're playing some dive. Yeah.
Yeah. And just that grind of not knowing if the van was even going to make it to the next town, right? And then
good times, man.
And now they're wealthy, right?
Yeah.
There is no struggle.
Right.
Right? Everything's just a button touch away, just all you gotta do is ask someone and it's there.
Takes all the excitement out.
Right. And then you hear them a lot talking about the old days, the struggle, the scratching, the clawing, and how much they loved, like sleeping in shitting hotels. And it's like, there's got to be some value. There's something there, right?
Yeah, it's a hard work, I think. You're working really well. Not saying the people on top are not working hard too,
but about passion in something that you're willing to sleep in a cock and roach infested hotel room and eat, moldy cheeseburgers.
So, people that are hungry and they just want it. Yeah. You know what I mean? They want it really bad.
But then it's weird how they get to the top and there's no more struggle. But
my brother and I were talking something that I think I can tag onto this and make some sense out of this was the haves and have-nots. The elitists, and some of the things that go on with like child stuff, right? I'm just gonna leave it at that. And a particular person that had killed himself in prison that was like really popular for what the relationship he had with children. And why do people, what the fuck is wrong with people to make them do shit like that? And I said, I think it's a lot. You see it once you start to hear some of the people that's on this list. None of them are poor, shitty people. They're all like lifestyles of the rich and famous. And I think at some point, like right now, you work hard this year, you save some money. Me and you are going to go out to Iowa. We're going to shoot buck. Like this is one of the most exciting things that's happened to us. Or you're taking the wife and kids on a cruise to Alaska this year. Like, I got my bonus. We just watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and Clark, man, I'm getting a pool with the bonus, and all the family's like, yay, it's a big deal. It makes you feel great. Once you have enough money that, you've already flown to Paris 3 times this month and had their shitty coffee, like, it just doesn't excite you anymore, right? Like, it becomes, what are you going to go shopping for what? You got a walk-in closet the size of half the people's house that has everything. Once you have money like that, where's the excitement? So then they start going in these dark areas, right? Because, this is illegal. I'm not supposed to do this, and that makes me excited, and so I kind of wonder if it's kind of the same. You know what I mean? Like,
I think they is a gross generalization, because I don't think that's every wealthy person.
No, I don't think every wealthy person does it, but I think it's a problem with wealth that.
But isn't it kind of...
You get bored. But, you know what I mean? I'm not saying you're going to be a baby eater because you're wealthy. What I'm saying is when you're wealthy, I think wealthy people tend to get bored easier. Because the little things just, they're not exciting anymore. That's what I'm saying.
And I don't know if that's more consistent with people that didn't have to scratch and claw their way to that wealth.
It could be. Or it could be just, when they didn't have it, those little things were fun, exciting, and now that they're on the big time, it just doesn't have the same, kind of like dating. In the beginning, it's later on, once it's established, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not giving anyone dating advice because like my dating life sucks. So I'm gonna be single forever, man. Like I'm not good at this. I don't think so.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It's just a way
it's
of
not the
looking
direct.
at it.
Yeah, I get it. It's not the direction I was going particularly with that. I was just saying like there's. It's funny how you look back and you appreciate the struggle, even though in the moment you don't recognize it
Right.
as being something of value. You're like, God, this sucks.
I don't want to go through this.
Right.
Later on, you look back, it was, a teachable moment, learnable moment, character building moment, right? Made you better for it.
Well, you'll hear like Eminem saying like, and other famous people. I remember him saying like, I just want to go pump gas.
Yeah.
Just want to go pump gas and not be recognized.
Right.
And it's weird how those little things all of a sudden become the focus of your life.
Become big things.
Yeah. Like just wanted to do those simple things.
Yep.
But it was an interesting conversation about, like you wonder how many wealthy people self-sabotage, right? Like,
yeah.
Like they'll build an empire and then they'll just make shitty decisions so it falls apart. So they got scratch and claw. So like something inside them just desires that struggle to, just that desire to have to rebuild. Like something inside of them just enjoys that high from the paranoia of losing everything.
Yeah, could be.
And then the high of rebuilding something new, and then they'll build this empire.
I'm sure there's something to that. Like
there's got to be. There's got to be something in us. And maybe because there's not enough struggle anymore because life has gotten too easy.
Maybe.
So what we consider hard,
so you don't have to
would be laughable.
Yeah. Right.
What we consider hard now would be laughable just 100 years ago, right? Like, please, son, like
you're crying it's cold out and you're wearing Sorel boots, and 100 years ago they had moccasins. Like, man, you don't know what cold feet feel like, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Some would say that's what I've done in my life with my relationships.
Yeah,
build them up to the point where they're just great, and then so that I can build it up again.
Huh.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what the conversation was kind of about. Was more like, do people self-sabotage just so they can get that new warm fuzzy feeling in their belly? Do they?
Maybe.
I
didn't think that that's what I was doing. I think my particular thing was probably not feeling needed anymore because we had hit the point where I had helped get us to this point, and then I just felt like I just wasn't important anymore. I wasn't needed. I don't think for me it was really self-sabotaging because of the excitement of because I was excited to be in a partnership with that person. Like I hadn't lost that, but yeah, I mean, there's someone in my life that bailed on me that I think that was probably some of it, the excitement, wanted the warm, fuzzy, new car smell, that's what I call it, the new car smell.
Well, and even people like there's people that are really good with money and people that are really bad with money, right?
Sure.
And then I wonder the same thing too, if some people, enjoy that struggle.
Yeah.
Of
maybe the battered wife syndrome, battered husband syndrome, they call it, right? Where, you get beat on and beat on, like, why not leave? Every person you go to seems to be someone that's just going to beat on you. And it's like, do you like that? Like, I mean, I don't know.
And again, is it because
life's biggest mysteries?
Is it because we don't have enough struggles, so we intentionally create our own struggles?
I'm sure there's some of that. I'm sure. I think people are so complicated. What makes us do what? Like, yeah, it's probably a mixture of a lot of shit, but I'm sure that's some of it. I think that's a good way of looking at it. The struggle. Like, I think humans, you're right, they used to struggle a lot more than they do now. Maybe.
I was watching some.
I like it.
Tesla quotes.
Yeah.
The other day, and do you know how Do you know what year Tesla lived?
Not off the top of my head. I've watched a couple documentaries about it, but
I was shocked.
I don't remember.
I thought he had lived in an earlier time. This ain't alone. I don't know why the internet's being shady. See that?
Well, yeah. Wasn't all that long ago, was it?
1856 to 1943.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Less than a lifetime before I was born.
Yeah. 2 years before my dad was born, he died.
Wow.
That just tells you how new all this is.
It's all new. Yeah.
1856 to 1943, died at 86 years old.
And you go before him, and humans had barely changed over 1,000 years, over 100,000 years. I mean,
just what he saw in his lifetime.
Yeah. Yep.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Kind of makes me wonder, like the kids now, like my youngest son, what is life going to be like through his lifetime? How much change because it seems like the more it changes, the faster and easier it comes, the bigger the difference, right? Like, ours was a slow burn at first, and then it just went, and now I wonder, like, man, is he going to go from, like, I don't even know. Your imagination could just go, the sky's the limit, right? There is no
And we're not good at predicting either, right?
Right.
You look at any predictions over the last 100 years.
We were supposed to have flying cars by the year 2000.
Right. We're all supposed to be living in space needles and shit up in the sky.
Right. Replicators like Star Trek,
And nobody saw the internet. Nobody predicted that communication would travel the way it does.
Yeah, for sure.
It blows my mind that how easily we can communicate. I was telling my brother last night, I'm like, look, we should have really done this over a podcast.
Yeah.
Because it was a good conversation.
Sure.
And I told him, this is a shit way of us communicating.
Bring him on the show.
It's a shit way of you and I communicating. I said, you don't hear the tones in my voice. You don't see my facial expressions. Right. So for all you know, I'm pissed off. And I'm not. I was trying to have a legitimate conversation, just trying to open his eyes to a different perspective, Not arguing. I wasn't upset. I was just trying to give him some facts and some points that maybe would help him see. And that's the nice thing about communication is I can instantly communicate with him even though he's hours away.
Crazy.
But at the same time, in that form of communication, it's not really good because things can be misinterpreted, taken out of context. If you didn't use the right punctuation.
Yeah, that gets taken out of context real easy.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good at all. So for
every benefit, equal negative side effect.
And I think that this is a new thing, and we have to get better at using this technology, probably more in person.
Yeah.
Whether it's Skype, whatever kind of video, it's going to have to evolve to the point to where text is a thing of the past. And when we communicate, it's just instantly where...
Just video chat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's better. It's faster. You get more said, less time for one.
Right.
And two, like you said, you're not going to misinterpret nearly as much.
Right.
When you can see the context of how someone's
tone of my voice, the facial expressions,
body language.
Yeah.
For sure. Because I've had shit taken way out of context, and I have taken text way out of context with different people where I was like, whoa. And then when I said, okay, no, you're right. I read that wrong. Sometimes I read it too fast. Yeah. And I didn't actually read it all. Like, I missed a few key words in there, and I thought, really? I started to get upset, and it's like, go back and read it. And I'm like, oh, because I'm, again, humans are busy now, right? Our minds are scattered to the wind. You got 100 things going on in your head at one time. It's easy. So I agree. Text, I think we should evolve past text messaging for sure. Yeah, and I like text. Like, I'm a texter, so I don't even have to look at the keyboard. I text the way most people type, just muscle memory. You just know where the letters are, So.
And I wonder how long before that is a normal thing. Because even commenting, right?
Yeah.
When you look at people that comment on videos or they comment on posts and shit, How many of those people would put the exact same comment in there if they had to do it
face to face?
Not face to face necessarily, but post themselves saying these things out of their own mouth in a comment section.
Yeah.
How many people would frickin', or would they at least think through their comment?
Yeah, the whole
and have
more
articulate way of communicating that, because they know someone's seeing my face.
There's accountability,
right,
to it. So.
Right.
Yeah, versus, it's kind of like a study I seen about like public nudity. Like, it was like the vast majority would be way more comfortable being nude in public if they were wearing sunglasses. Than without sunglasses, because you felt more hidden, right? So it's kind of the same thing of like texting, you're kind of hidden behind the veil, but if you put your face to it and, now people are seeing you, yeah, it's funny. I'm sure
I bet we've become a lot more civilized in our discourse.
I'm sure. Because, you know what I mean?
Media.
The keyboard warriors and all that hate that people are just, typing up all the time. A bunch of stupid shit. Yeah.
Which,
for real. Which would be a good thing.
It would be. And there's also something to be said about being able to be anonymous, too. Right. And communicating, especially if your opinions aren't
mainstream.
Right.
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 I mean, there's a reason we wear our costumes.
Right. So there is something. It's tough. That's where it gets tough. Is deciding, how do we make society more civil?
Right.
But not forfeit all of our identity.
Yeah.
To the point it can be used against us either, when it's something that we should be opposing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you don't have the popular opinion,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that'll make you think.
No doubt. So I don't know. It was a good conversation. Both of them were good conversations. As far as the struggle one, and then about like personal accountability, like deer hunting, and that goes to just about anything in life. It's like whatever's not working out, it can be trust me, it's tough to make changes, especially if you're in you got shitty neighbors, and you're like trying to figure out how can you move out and move into a better place. And I understand these things can be very difficult because not everybody has the resources. But at the same time, how much less stress will you have in your life if you have to grind in the short term?
Sure.
Work 2 jobs, or whatever you have to do, go to school and work,
right.
To have a better, how much better will your quality of life be later on for the struggle that you have to go through now and get out of your comfort zone.
Right.
And maybe not get 8 hours of sleep, or maybe not be able to go out with friends whenever you want to.
But if you want to bitch because your neighbor sucks, like, sometimes I get it. I bought a house with a great neighbor, and then the neighbor died, and, okay, now I got shitty neighbors. That wasn't my fault. Wasn't my decision. No, I'm saying for me, though, the way I look at it, like, then what I want to do at that point, just to kind of elaborate on what I was saying earlier with that, was I understand the reason now. I dissected it. I pulled it apart. Now what can I do to fix it? Like you said, no, maybe it's move. Maybe it's talk to the neighbor, maybe it's you'll have to get a second job for a little while to be able to pull your family out of a bad situation. I think, long term for your mental health, and I think, like I said, now I'm with you on that. I pack my shit, I'm gone. Just forget it. I just don't want the shit in my life anymore. I don't have enough ahead of me now to sacrifice any of it being pissed off and angry, and you know what I mean? Like, it's just a shitty way of living your life.
Yeah.
You're going to live in that house for the next 20 years hoping they move out?
Right.
So,
yeah. And it sucks. What I think people get overwhelmed with is they see the struggle ahead of them.
Right.
And it's like
overwhelming.
It's just easier to stay here and do this, but not realizing like that struggle doesn't have to be forever.
And it doesn't have to be bad.
If you have to go back to school, it's gonna suck. Maybe eating ramen noodle and only getting 6 hours of sleep because you got to work and go to school, and like you don't have time with your friends, or this or that, but it's only short term. It's just to
Right.
dig out of this hole, right,
Right.
and get away from that. And now you've eliminated a couple stresses. Now you have a better paying job. You're not living next to shitty neighbors.
Yeah.
Your kids' quality of life is better because you're not stressed out and yelling at them and shit.
Right.
And, and so on and so forth. It snowballs. It improves the whole quality of your life. We're not here that long.
No, not very long at all. And the older you get, the faster it goes by, man.
Right. And then you start thinking like,
I remember when summers lasted forever.
Yeah.
Now they last a few weeks, and you're into fall already. So yeah, crazy.
I remember a family member telling me one time I was taking down their Christmas tree and putting it up in the garage, and they're like, "It seems like as fast as this one ends, you just start preparing, and before you know it, you're gonna be pulling the tree out of storage for me and putting it back up. It goes just that quick.
That fast.
And the older I get, it seems like I still put that Christmas tree up in storage for them, and it's like before I know it, I'm going out there and getting it out of storage and putting it up for them.
It's crazy how fast it goes.
And they're right. It's like
your perception of time changes so much.
As soon as one Christmas ends, all you're doing is starting to prepare for the next one.
Yep.
You barely have time to blink.
Starts putting things into perspective, though. You start looking out at your life going, it's kind of, when you're young, you have this whole life. Like, I got plenty of time, man. You get a little older, and it's like, I don't have as much time as I thought I did. So, I want to do some things, right?
Yeah.
So, it's crazy how it just, and it's perception. It has to be. Time is time. A minute is a minute. But why a minute goes by so much faster now than it did when you were 15 or 12 or 20?
Our brains are just running slower as we get older, and we're younger. Our brains are running real fast. We're learning, absorbing all this information, and I think they're designed that way.
Right.
It's designed to, try to take in as much as you can. That's what I said. Whatever you want to learn, you really want to learn it before you're 25, right?
Right. And then I guess later on maybe it changes because it's meant to make you appreciate it more.
Yeah.
You appreciate that minute when it's here and gone that fast.
Yeah.
You take them for granted when you're younger.
Yeah.
'Cause you got a lot of them.
Sure.
I got a lot of time.
Sure.
Now, you look out and you're like, man, I got more days behind me than I do ahead of me.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And I think you look at that
from
that younger perspective, and I think you have, probably because of the way we're wired, our DNA, to reproduce, and so we have that drive, to make shit, and go to work, and that hustle and that grind to attract a suitable mate, and build the life we want, and then once you build
mysteries
of
life, man,
start slowing down.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Sure. So I don't know, what I'm going to do with the rest of mine. I don't know. I'm going to take really good care of my little one. Try every day to be the best dad I can be, and just kind of enjoy the adventure, just enjoy the ride. I think is kind of my goal with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it comes down to, every now and then you get lucky and you fall into something, but you truly do get out of it what you put into it. And I think that's consistent.
Right.
That the harder you work, the more you learn, the more you apply yourself, and whether it's hunting, your job, your relationship,
wealth.
Right.
I mean, there were studies that showed that people that worked their way through with wealth managed it far better than lottery winners. Like there's this big thing about, the lottery ruined my life, because they didn't earn it. It was just boom in their lap given, and they don't manage it well. They don't know how.
Right.
Because they didn't work their way through the ranks to do it.
Yeah, because I think there is a certain amount of knowledge that's gained, obviously, right? As you're earning it, you're starting to learn, and I think your relationships probably change slower in that climb than if it's just throwing in your lap. Now people all around you want your money, right?
Sure.
So now you're faced with that shit show of
people that were your friends or were your family.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you're like, man, this person's a dick. I never noticed that. You'll notice it real quick when you have money and they want it. I don't know.
And when you're
Sometimes I
earning
think,
it, I think those relationships are weeded out a little sooner, right? Because your priorities are different, and
that slow burn into it, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I wonder maybe being really uber wealthy wouldn't be so much fun. I don't know.
want to be uber wealthy.
I
I
think
don't want
my
billions.
wealth I measure different. I mean, I am wealthy,
Yeah.
and the relationships I have with people, and the life that I have, I'm very blessed and very wealthy. Being rich though financially, like, is as great as it sounds like it would be to say, hey, let's let's go to Turkey tomorrow and get coffee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They got this
Yeah.
the world's greatest coffee there. Let's go get a cup. Okay, it'd be fun the first couple times you do it, but like I said, I gotta think these guys just get bored out of their mind. Like,
maybe if too much comes too early too, because
right.
I think at our age, if we fell into billions,
Yeah,
we don't have as much life as we fell into it when we were 20.
true.
And we're
that's
different.
True.
We're different men now
Yeah.
than when we were 20.
Sure.
So our decisions would be different today than when we were 20.
Right.
So I guess it depends on when you become wealthy and how you earned
I think
it.
that would affect it too. You know? I got to think earning it though, the way through is definitely the better way of doing it than having it dropped in your lap. But
I still like to believe that today I'd make better decisions with billions than I would have when I was 25.
Right. I think so. You should be wiser now. If you're not, no, that's a problem, man. You should have learned some life lessons along the way. So yeah, I would think you'd be better with it. I don't know. I think my generosity maybe has always been about the same. I've always been a pretty generous person. I think at 20 I'd have went and played Santa, and I think now I'd go and play Santa, and stand out in front of, or go into the store and just buy the people ahead of me, look at all their Christmas gifts they're buying, and saying, you know what, I'm going to pay for all this. Merry Christmas. I think I would have done it even when I was younger, but I think I'd manage my finances better now than when I was 20. Oh yeah.
See, I would have been balling out of control at 25. I wouldn't have gave two shits other than, oh I know me at 25, and I would have been buying fucking Lamborghinis and living in
I would have bought some nice shit, no doubt. I would have blown
going to Japan and shit, and I wouldn't have gave two shits about.
But I've always kind of had that giving heart.
Now it's flip flop. Now, if I won billions on the lottery, I'm giving that shit. I don't want the troubles that come with having billions of dollars. I don't want that responsibility.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot of work, man.
Once my family's comfortable and I've acquired the things I want,
give the rest away. And
I don't want it. I do not want the attention and the headache that comes.
I always said I would probably just start a cool business that is something I wanted to do for a long time, and then give a bunch of it away, like set myself up and my loved ones up, friends and family. Set up a business. So I got something to pass on to my children, and then the rest, you know what I mean.
And have the business not be all about profit, to where you can pay your employees more than what they should be making, just because you have the money.
Because you have the ability,
and they're still producing product and not making them.
But that way, I still have something to do every day. Get up, go to work, but I'm doing something I like, and I have some control over it. And I mean, that's how I always kind of envisioned me doing it.
Yeah.
And then I would definitely have fun though. Oh, I'd be out giving out $100 bills. Go to lunch, and then I mean, even Applebee's, man. I'm going into Applebee's, and I'm gonna tip that girl $500.
Can you imagine walking into your bank, going to the mortgage lady and saying, "Pull up 5 random mortgages. I'm paying them off today."
Yeah, just something like that. Like, I'm gonna help some people.
Yeah.
I'm
why
gonna
don't
make
more
a difference.
billionaires do that?
I don't know.
Do they, and we just don't hear about it? But why?
God, I would think you would hear about it.
You think somebody would be like, "Oh my God, someone random paid off my mortgage."
Because you do see the stories of a waitress getting $100 tip from someone. I mean, those, but the big ones like that, like you know what? You have $1 billion.
Right.
You can't pay off a couple of $100,000 homes. Right. I mean, what the hell is that to you?
Right.
What is
that interest?
Not even as interest. You know what I mean? Like that's a third of your interest probably, or a tenth of it. Like, it's such a small fraction of your wealth, but it would make such a monumental difference in someone else's life. You know what I mean? Like, why not? I would have fun. You know what I mean? Like, we'd be out hanging out, going shopping and say, all right, so the first person we see with a green hat today, we're gonna give him $1,000. You know, just make a game out of it. Like, have fun with it. I don't know. I seen a cool video. It's a guy. This girl is self cash out, and this guy walks up behind her and he goes, "Excuse me," beep, and he rings his pop up and he walks out with it. And she looks at him like, "Are you kidding?" So she pays the bill, you know, she goes out in the front of the store, and then he approaches her, and she's like, "You know, what you did was not very nice." And he goes, "You know, what you did was, you paid for it. So here's $300. You know, and they had a big hug and stuff. It was one of those warm, fuzzy, feel-good stories, but I thought, man, the look on her face when he walked up behind her and rang his pop-up and then walked out with it and then stuck her with the bill, like, oh. But, you know, she paid it, and I thought, man, that would be fun to do that, you know, and then give people, like, the people that are good about it, like, you know what, here, didn't know this was coming, did you? Here's $500, you know, like, I don't know. I would just want to have fun with it, I think. I definitely, you know, I don't know. We'd have a bigger, better studio, better lighting, you know, better equipment, whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
No doubt.
We'd have some crew members shooting all this shit for us so that we're not having to click buttons. But I think a lot of it, I'm with you. I think I'd give a lot of it away.
You see this $1 billion here? This one right here? See what this says?
Wow.
You could spend $1,000 per day, and it'd take you about 2,740 years before you ran out of money.
Yeah. In other words, you're not ever going to run out of money.
That equates to $5,000 a day for more than 500 years, or $100,000 every single day for 25 years if you had $1 billion.
Yep.
$100,000 every single day for 25 years you could spend.
And that's without investing it. That's just
I don't know if that is interest. Or not. Yeah.
I bet that's not, because you could take $1 billion and turn it to $10 billion. Like, you know.
Isn't that crazy? You could spend $100,000 a day for 25 years before you ran out of money.
Yeah.
Again, why? I don't
know. I guess because
does it devalue the dollar if you?
I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I just think people are selfish. Like, there's just a lot of selfishness.
Think about that.
A lot of greed.
Think about that for a minute. If you had, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
You had $2 billion. You can keep $1 billion. You can pay off $100,000 mortgage every day for 25 years.
Yep. How many people could you affect in that lifetime?
Yeah.
You know, how many days are there in 25 years?
Yeah, let's see.
Let's do some math.
Yeah, I'm using a calculator. I ain't doing mental math on the fucking.
That's
the worst thing you can do, right? Yeah. So 25 years, 365 days, 8,900.
So almost 9,000 people.
Yeah.
You could change their life.
9,000 people.
And not even hurt your own.
Yeah. You still have $1 billion in the bank. Not just one billionaire.
Yeah. Why not, man?
I don't know. I don't get it. And I'm not saying what anybody should do with their money.
No.
Do whatever the hell you want with your money. I just wonder.
Because in some ways, humans are very giving and compassionate, and, you know, they volunteer. Like, you know, I was a volunteer firefighter. I ran EMS calls. I didn't get paid for those. You know, 3 o'clock in the morning, someone's got chest pain. I'm going to your house and for free, just to be a good person in your community, good steward. You want to help people. So I think inherently there's always this tug of war in us of the good and bad. You know what I mean? I think in a lot of us there is a lot of good, but I think there's a lot of greed too. And I think, I don't know, man, maybe being rich. I'm not going to call it wealthy, because I think poor people could be wealthy, but being rich maybe isn't so good. It isn't so fun. You know, I don't know, because I've never been rich.
Right. I think it depends on what you do with that money.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you feel fulfilled, or do you feel empty, and now you're going down the dark path and you know, some of that creepy shit that they do. So I don't know.
I think a lot of them just kind of, you know, they get lost in, because you said there is no more thrill, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of them, you know, we know a lot of them get lost in drugs, and alcohol,
exactly,
and they kind of just wither away.
Yeah, I mean, you watch these guys; they're hiring prostitutes. Why? You're rich. You could go into anywhere, and out of 10 girls, 3 of them are gonna want to date you because you're rich. Like, you don't have
maybe
to
that's
buy
why.
it.
Maybe they control it that way because
Maybe,
they know that they don't want to be lied to. They know what they're paying for,
maybe,
what they're getting.
or maybe it's just the excitement of doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. You know what I mean?
I think at that level, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like, remember the escort service? Who
No,
was,
sure,
you
you're
know,
not
like,
going. None of them go to jail for prostitution.
right.
That's for us poor people.
It's.
You know?
I was really surprised my wife's take on prostitution.
Mm.
She was like, "Who cares? Like,
Right.
as long as they're not being forced into it, who cares if they do it?"
It's
I was
your
like,
body.
"Oh, that's cool that she has that perspective." You know, like,
I'd agree with it. I don't think it should be illegal.
yeah, she's like, as long as they're not forced into it, and it's something they're doing
And
willingly,
they're not messing around with children.
Yeah, they're of age, and
do your thing,
that's what they want to do. She's like, who is anybody to tell them they can't do that? She's like, but it's okay for a guy to buy her $100 dinner, and then
obviously he's expecting it, right?
Right, like, it's this weird,
Yeah, that's crazy. Yep. I'd agree with it though, you know.
But yeah, you'll see these people, you'll see they're just dead one day.
Yeah.
And then, you hadn't heard about them for 10 years. They haven't been in the news or anything.
They've just been drugging the shit out of it.
Drinking, just depression and pills. How many of you heard died of pills?
Right. And suicide.
Yeah.
Some of the people you thought were happiest, like Robin Williams, man.
Yeah.
Like, just depression, man, it's a real motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, once it gets you, it doesn't let go.
Linkin Park.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many of them that,
You wonder, how do you achieve that level of success and
be, that miserable that, I don't know. Like, maybe because in some of it, maybe it's because they don't feel that fulfilled in their relationships because so many people do use them and just want their money. They don't feel connected to other people as much anymore.
Well, they definitely are isolated.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, when you achieve a certain amount of wealth and fame, you can only hang around other wealthy and famous people, right? So your group got really small, and you may not even like those people, but because they're in the same social group, and those are the only people that really understand you, you're kind of forced to just hang out with them because you just can't go hang out with normal people because they want your autograph and they want to take pictures with you and they want some of your money.
You to invest in their business.
Right. And they want to go to your big house and swim in your pool and, drive your cars. And it's like, you just can't have friends.
Right.
Like it used to be.
Yeah,
when they
I think that's why I can say I'm very wealthy, and a lot of rich people can't.
That's why I think if I had that kind of money, I'd bring people around me up to that level. So then I could maintain the same people around me.
Right.
But then you wonder, then you start going down that rabbit hole. Well, so I win the lottery and I give a family member $1 million and they fucking get all coked out and smash their car and die.
Right. Yeah, you feel a little guilty
now
about
their kids
that.
Don't have a dad, and their wife's widowed because
they still have $1 million,
Well, you know what I'm saying. They still, life is worth more than money. So
maybe just pay their debt off. You know what I mean? Instead of giving them the cash, just pick them up, say, let's go for a ride. Take them to credit union. All right, let's go in here. Let's see how much your mortgage, your car, what's your debt? I'm paying it off
I don't know.
today.
I keep going down these rabbit holes, though, and then now they don't have a mortgage, so now they can go on the trip to Florida, and the whole family dies in a plane crash because they had this extra money because their mortgage. It's like, fuck, like
God's will, huh?
Yeah, it's like, gosh, I feel, like, how do you even navigate?
I think
those waters. Like, I don't know.
I think I would so just view it as in I did what I felt was good and right, and life just is what it is. I mean, you could do everything right and die tomorrow anyways.
Yeah, no doubt.
Tomorrow's not promised.
No.
So, whether it's struck by lightning or a fucking meteor falls from space and smites you where you stand, it's, who knows?
I know. I worry about that guilt.
You would feel guilty in a sense, but on the other hand,
especially if it was a close family member like your brother or your parent, and you gave them all this money, thought you were setting them up for the rest of their life, and now they're not even here
because they had to get on that plane to go to Disney World,
And now you're even more isolated, right?
Right.
Because you brought all these people in close and made them rich, and then.
But you know what? Then you got to look at it. Well, you know what? had they went anyways, because me, I just believe you go when it's your time. When your ticket's getting punched, it's getting punched.
True.
So maybe those last couple months that person was here was brilliantly fun, and you did give them that on their way out.
True.
You know what I mean? So I guess that's how I would try to look at it.
Yeah.
I think, at least they went out on a high note, right?
Right.
They went out debt free on their way to Disney World or Wally World, like Mr. Griswold would say. Let's go to Wally World.
Right.
Yeah, that's how I would look at it. I think.
Yeah, I just worry about. I don't know. You want everybody a best quality of life, right?
Right.
And that's kind of the point of that, right? Like getting rich, giving that money to people, improving their quality of life. Now they have access to excellent health care. They can drive a nice vehicle that's safer than the one they're driving. They can live in a nicer house to where
better community,
right?
Yep,
and
safer area,
right?
And be healthier.
Yeah,
afford those healthy groceries finally, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
So that's what I would want to do. I'd want to bring everybody up with me. All the people I love that have been just there for me, like I'm gonna be there for them, man. Like, dude, I'm paying your shit off. Like, let's go to Iowa and hunt. Let's go get a big buck. We
were watching on YouTube this morning a house for sale in Utah.
Yeah.
It was built to be off grid.
Right.
But it is tied to the power grid.
So it's grid tied.
It is grid tied. But it's
just the best way.
It could run
independently
multiple days just on the solar. The battery's like the size of his desk.
Yeah.
And it had I think it was a Kohler generator.
Yeah.
Had 6 1,000-gallon propane tanks. It said it could power for months off the propane.
Yeah.
The house was 12,000 square feet.
Yeah.
It had a tunnel that went underground to the guest house.
Nice.
It was on 50 acres, but up to 2 million acres of national wildlife forest right out the back door.
Yeah. Man. Right there.
I was like, what's that like? It's for sale right now.
Yeah.
That's why they were. I was like, what's that life like? The house had 8 washing machines and dryers in it.
Yeah.
Throughout the house.
Set up for like
entertaining. Yeah. Even though it's only 6 bedrooms, 6.5 baths.
Right.
But
yeah,
the way it's set up had a movie theater. I was like, what's that life like?
yeah.
What's the life like to be able to not only because this was built, right? So not only be able to afford to build it, but to be able to afford it, I think it was on the market for $29,500,000.
$30 million.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're a billionaire, what's that?
So I was just thinking, like,
wow.
Yeah, what's that life like?
The real question is, who would you pick to go there with you? Yeah, there's the hard question. I could take 4 people with me.
Well, it would be a place for me when I looked at it, because they had like a bunk room set up, so you could see like, all the younger cousins could stay in that that bunk room, and then each adult could have their own room, for holidays, obviously.
Big get-togethers.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, birthdays.
Be fun.
Anniversaries. Driveway was heated.
Heated driveway. I see a lot of those now. Those expensive houses. Heated sidewalks, heated driveways, no more shoveling.
Yeah, I just thought, man.
I don't know. Maybe we keep pounding this podcast long enough, we'll be able to buy something like that someday. If the world keeps turning.
The elk hunting there.
That's what I was just thinking. Man, getting up in the morning and hearing the bugles, like, oh, God. Sitting there having coffee, just listening to the elk bugle back and forth, like, oh, yeah. 30 million. Not that much.
Oh, I put a... let's see if I could find it real quick.
That'd be awesome.
Mm,
Yeah, it's just that what they call it, fuck you money, right?
right,
Hmm.
right. Yeah, I
Not that I'll ever know what it feels like in my life, but it's fun to fantasize about.
man, I was really hoping I'd
Was it in
find it.
Utah?
It's in Utah, yeah. Oh, right there it is. I just wanted you to see some. I
Wow.
know people online can't
Yeah,
see it, but you can
man,
look it up.
snap a picture of it. And probably do that though.
Fucking ad.
You gotta bring up a good picture of it. No, Jesus. Yeah. Let's do it this way. See if I can show everybody.
Look at that room.
Ready?
Let me get the front one right.
Yeah. No, scroll up just a little bit. So no, the other way. Sorry, down. Yeah, right there. So I can get them both. All right. Let's see if I can do this the right way.
Oh, let me,
Yeah, you gotta click out so I can see where I'm at. Look at that. Wow. Beautiful.
here's that bunk room I was telling you about. You see how it's got the
Man, look at
bunks?
that. Yeah.
So, you could see, like, all the kids staying in
Gorgeous.
there, and, like,
Yep.
look at
Man.
that entertainment room.
Yeah.
And they sunk the seating down into the floor. Because they said
awesome.
usually it, like, stair steps down, like a theater.
Right.
But in this one, they decided to sink the front row seating down into the floor. Look at that.
Look at that pool.
It's actually a jacuzzi.
Jacuzzi, yeah.
It's a jacuzzi.
Size of a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you, be living large. Yeah. I'd love to just host a party there once.
Here's that guest house, and that tunnel goes underground.
Over to it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at the aerial shot of that. It sits on 50 acres.
That is.
They didn't say how long the driveway was, but it's
long.
And they showed it, but they didn't say how long it was. I was like, there ain't no way anybody from the road's gonna see you.
No.
You know.
Or feel comfortable going up that driveway.
It's gated.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, it's gated. Yeah, so they couldn't. And there's 50 cameras on the property, so they said you can't. There's no hidden corners from the cameras.
Prepper's paradise, right there, man. The funny thing, and this is a conversation I have with my brother too, is like these rich, uber rich people are building all these bunkers and doomsday bunkers around the world now, and it's like these people they're not armed, right? So they hire armed security. So here's a place like this, and let's say there's a billionaire, and he knows when shit gets rough, he's gonna go there. He's got a security team there with whatever tactical, semi-automatic rifles that's gonna protect him and his family. But when it really goes down, what's money worth? You know what I mean? What's that worth? So would assume who really owns that?
I would assume the security detail. There's like a gold deal, right? It's not, and like their families are taken care of too.
But you're telling me a lot of them people wouldn't be like, you know what? You're not telling me what to do anymore, son. We're the ones that's got the guns.
It's possible.
I'm gonna have your gold and your bunker.
It's possible.
You and your family can beat it, or we're gonna bury you here on the 50 acres, right? Like, I think where's the real power when it really pops off? The real power is gonna be those guys.
Well, you have to hope that you hired loyal enough people
and that you were good to them.
They don't want to see society decay to that point to where it's just,
right.
That
but
they
see
understand
a lot
their
of
family's taken care of. They get to come there with them.
Right.
And this guy has been a good boss. He's always taking care of my family.
That's what I said. When you're good to him,
he's always giving me time off.
Better be being good to people, man, because you treat people like shit, and all of a sudden that guy's like, you know what?
Yeah, if you treat them like shit, I could see it happening. If they're like family, if your security detail is like your family and you took good care of them and remember
we just had that conversation about people who win the lottery and, family that were great.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, man, they're not so great anymore. So I don't know. I got to think. I'm not in every scenario would that happen, but I got to think in a lot of them, a lot of these people that are security, they're going to be like, no, this is for me and my family and my friends, and you're out.
Yeah.
Take a walk.
Yeah.
I think because a lot of these people never set themselves up to be capable of taking care of it themselves.
Right. No doubt.
They're dependent on someone else to do it, and that is not a good place to be. Man, you're vulnerable because it is just really that security person. your detail that you hired, that is your whole life's dependent on that now. See, you better be good to your security, man.
Yeah, it could go dark real quick.
It's just something I had told.
And even your pilot, right? Say you're planning on your pilot to get you to New Zealand, right? He could just easily be his family on there and fly
throw
there.
you off, and
not even just you show up to the airport and the plane's gone.
And it's gone.
He already left.
Yeah, throws your ass out at 30,000 feet. Yeah, it was, and it was. I was thinking of it's the year 2012, the movie.
Yeah.
And I think he's Russian. He's got the pilot and his girlfriend. He left her ass. In the end, it was just him and his kids.
Yeah.
They all end up on the plane anyways. But
yeah.
It was just like, oh, you thought you and your little dog were getting out? No. Thanks. It was fun, honey, but go on now.
Yeah.
And to think that pilot, he was in love with that girl anyways. But I mean, he had the power, right? Who really at that point had power? Not the rich guy.
Yeah.
Because money at that point, it just was useless now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're talking something.
The scene in Titanic where the guy pays off the whatever, he's a captain or whatever, and to save me a spot in the boat because it's supposed to be women and children, but all the lifestyles are rich and famous, right? So he buys this spot, and then the ship's really going down, and all hell's really starting to break loose now, and he comes back and he's like, my seat, and the captain, he pulls out the money and he throws it in his face like, what good's your goddamn money gonna do me?
Yeah.
I think he was the one that shot himself and whatever, but and the rich guy was just offended, like, how could you throw my money down? What good's your money? We're all gonna die anyways, you know what I mean? Like, it just kind of made me think. Funny, just I don't know. I sure would love to have a bunker like that though, just to be able to entertain people like that for a weekend once, just one time in my life, to say, you know what?
I think it'd be worse. I think it'd be better never to if I could only do it one weekend, because then I'd have that taste for it, and then
that's a good point.
Talk about depression.
Oh God, yeah, true. That's a good point.
Like knowing you have that little taste of it,
just enough to, and now it's gone. Yeah.
Like, I just assume never drive a Ferrari. Is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
If I can't buy one,
then I don't want to drive it.
Because I'd drive it once, and then it'd be like, in my dirty pajamas in my fucking bed, hating life, knowing I'm never gonna
eating Cheetos, getting fat, you know.
Like, what's the point,
Right.
You get that little taste of that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that's what would happen if I got to stay in a house like that for a weekend,
Oh my God, it's just gorgeous.
It is. I just wonder.
Just the freedom feeling to go out on the porch, the deck, patio. There is no porch on that place.
No, there.
To be able to walk out on that,
let me click on
and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Listening to the elk.
Look at that.
Wow. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Walk out on that patio, like mountains in the background.
2 million acres of property that'll never have anything developed on it.
Yeah, crazy. Man, I'd be down for it. Heck yeah. What a life.
I told the wife, I'm like, because they said, you can develop still on the land.
Yeah.
I told the wife, the first thing I'd do is I'd build a hunting cabin on there for all my shit, all my hunting stuff, my mounts.
Yep.
When the guys come up hunting, that's where they stay,
man.
To
give you that real hunter feel.
Well, just so you're not getting that shit in that house, and when the guys come over, out for hunting, that's where we stay, and we leave from there and go hunting, come back with our muddy boots and our hunting clothes, shit. Out there, so that's the first thing I'd do.
Yeah. I'd have some sweet ass ORV trails through there, man.
Yeah, they said there's snowmobile trails right off the property onto that property out there. There's trails
you need
right
long
there.
tracks for that, man.
In the winter, I don't know how much snow I don't know exactly. I don't remember what exactly.
Mountains, I would have imagined quite a bit, but yeah, it'd be fun just to get up in the morning, have some coffee, listen to elk, and then take a ride on the ATV. Just ride around your property a little bit, checking shit out. Yeah.
Well, and you're talking about freedom, and money truly is freedom, right? Even in the most oppressed countries in this world, money is where freedom is.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Because you were just, what'd you say? Oh, that rich people that buy prostitutes don't go to jail, but poor people do, right?
Right.
Same thing, right?
Hunter Biden, right? I mean, how much?
Charlie Sheen.
Sheen, yeah, another one.
How much coke did he get busted with?
Right.
I should
Man,
double check
he's not in prison. So yeah, I mean, when you have enough, I don't know, that's why they call it fuck you money, right? Like,
well, I mean,
do what you
they
want,
even make
and there's just different rules for those guys. Oh, Nancy Pelosi's husband, drunk driving, smashed his car drunk driving. I mean, if that was you or me, 20 years,
Well,
Rich people they live by different rules, man.
His ex.
Hmm.
Oh, not facing drug charges.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'd never really read the story.
And I gotta admit, like, even for the average person roots for them, and you don't want to see your favorite actor go to prison, right? And they know that, like your favorite singer in a rock band or
so they
whatever.
didn't catch him with any cocaine. It was just suspected that he was on a binge. All right.
There was a lot of eyewitness testimony to him. You know what I mean? Like,
since no drugs were found on the scene, there were no grounds to arrest the troubled sitcom star at the time.
mm-hmm.
No shit. Yeah, you'd always.
But
heard
he was
that.
known for prostitution and drugs, and I said, hell, they got Hunter Biden on video doing it.
His ex was,
smoking crack and shit, and he ain't gonna get no trouble for that.
I don't think you can get. I don't think you can get in trouble for, right, unless they catch you with it.
I don't know. I don't know. People in January 6th sure went to prison for being on video trespassing.
No, I'm saying like
because they were on video doing it. So
right.
I don't
know.
I
don't know if
to me it seems different. Like after the fact, but
I think that's different than
trespassing. May be different than drug use. I don't know. It shouldn't be. I mean, if it's good for one, it should be good across the board. But these guys get caught all the time drinking and driving, and they just don't go to jail. They just, like you said, it's freedom.
Yeah.
You can do what you want.
Briefcase full of cocaine. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Probably straight out of Colombia too, like,
Wow.
Man. I don't know. I sure as hell wouldn't want to turn into that.
Wow.
That would be my fear. Like, ruin your life,
Wow. Yeah, you're right. And that's, again, a lot of time, that's, again, that goes back to what we talked about.
He's got HIV now, and you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Man.
You'd have to be so careful to not get carried away. I think I would let myself get addicted to hunting for Bigfoot. Yep. I'd buy me a house like we were just looking at, and then I'd spend my time, hunting the Yeti.
Well, you have enough money to do it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, they start my own reality show.
Well, you definitely have enough money to do it. You wouldn't have a problem hiring people.
Right. I think I would try, like, to do something like that versus, like, drugs and alcohol and,
Would you do it, or would you pay someone to go out for you and video it?
What?
Bigfoot.
To just send someone out to hunt for him? Well, I'd do it myself. Yeah, I'd want to go. I mean, you could have a crew come with you to video it, I guess. Bring a buddy and, a GoPro or hire a professional crew to come out with you and do it. But yeah, I think the whole fun of it would be to do it yourself, to smell that forest, like just, yeah, the excitement when you hear a twig break. Is it the Yeti? I hear a squatch. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be fun, and you got the money to do it. Why not? Be better than submerging yourself in prostitution and drugs and alcohol and gambling.
I wonder how long though. Like, what if you realize, like, all right, this is bullshit.
What, like Yeti hunting?
Yeah, like we didn't find anything.
Then you get a boat and you look for Nessie, the Loch Ness monster, and you just go down the list of trying to discover something cool. I think that I'd submerge myself in that. Maybe hunting obviously is a big part of who we are, so that obviously you go on some great. I don't know, go to Africa and shoot a zebra or something. I try to do shit like that, like, and it's possible. You see, Ted Nugent's not all fucked up on drugs all the time, and you know what I mean. Like,
but I don't think he's
rich.
a billionaire either.
Not a billionaire, but I mean, you know, he's definitely rich. You know, and stayed on the clean side. You know, he wants to travel the world and hunt cool shit. You know,
and I think that's part of staying grounded, right? I think that comes from just not being easily influenced.
Right. Yeah, you'd have to be strong and smart, you know, because it would be really easy to go down that hole, you know. Oof, man, I definitely would not want it to destroy me, you know. Because it does wreck some people, man. A lot of them rich people do a lot of bad shit.
Yeah, and again, I'm assuming it's because maybe the trauma to them, or just that, like Ted Nugent for the most part, right? He can still travel freely, right? If people know him, but it doesn't seem like he gets the attention like a movie star would, right? I mean, it depends on the group, but not to the point that it's intrusive to where he still can't move freely, right?
Right.
I'm assuming
he could probably disguise himself enough.
I'm assuming he still stops and get gas in his vehicle, right? He doesn't have to pay employee of his to go get gas for him because he can't even stop for gas, right? I would assume that he still is free enough.
Maybe. I guess it depends on what he's driving. If he's got his big zebra Bronco,
does he still have that thing?
I don't know. But I'm telling you, he wouldn't drive not anywhere in Michigan pull up to get gas.
Yeah.
With that, he'd get mobbed because everyone knows. You know what I mean? It's iconic. But yeah, I see what you're saying though. Like, you know, his normal wheels or whatever to roll up and then a car and get gas. You know, sunglasses and a hat on. No one would probably know.
Yeah.
Or someone might pick him out and get an autograph, but he probably wouldn't get swamped. You know. Maybe if you're a Kid Rock, you know, like that might be a little harder to slip in and out of somewhere and not get noticed. But yeah, maybe actors are a little bit more facially known than, you know, singers.
Looks like Charlie Sheen's ex is the one that faced charges for drugs, not him.
He dodged that one, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's seen him on, you know, was it 2.5 Men was kind of like he was really struggling in that show, and then they fired him. He wasn't showing up for work, and he's coming in all tweaked out and shit. So, the way I understand it.
Interesting. Well, what do you think? We went 2 hours deep, pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. I think it's been a good podcast, and you know, interesting, good debate back and forth.
Yeah.
I think do your like, share, subscribe, ring the bell.
Yes, please leave some comments down below. Wherever you're listening to it, give us a thumbs up, rate it. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, obviously Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter.
We're out there. Follow
we're all
us.
over the place. You know.
Join in the conversation. We'll answer any comments, questions. We'll answer anything.
Let's get it interactive, man. We'd have some fun with that. You know.
Yeah.
We're all about that. So,
yeah. Something you found funny, a fact that you looked up, post a link to it.
Something you think we're wrong on?
Yeah.
All right.
Something that you found interesting and you found a link to it, throw it down below, and other people can read it and listen and learn from it. It's the whole point, you know.
Yeah.
Just to have a good conversation, learn something.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
Thanks.
Love and peace.